Welcome to the Career Technical Education and CTE Partnership Part B application video module. Please use this video and its accompanying module guide in whatever way best suits your planning team. For example, if your school is new to Career Technical Education programming, the team may want to review the whole video individually first and then watch again together, pausing the video after each slide or group of slides to reflect on your current status with the Part B application questions and explore the linked resources. Schools with existing CTE programs may prefer to jump directly to sections of the video that address application elements that you know the team needs to focus on. In either case, be sure to identify what next steps are needed so that you can create an action plan with clear responsibilities and timelines that will lead you to making the strongest possible Part B submission. First, let's review the Part B application timeline. In December and January, schools moving on to Part B should discuss Part A feedback with their CCTE liaison. In January and February, drop-in virtual office hours with DESE CCTE staff and technical assistance partners are offered to applicant school teams. The Part B application submission is due via CHAMP in March. On-site visits for safety, health, and accessibility reviews are scheduled between March and June. The final deadline for all components of the application process is in June, and final designations are conferred by the DESE Commissioner at the end of June. As with Part A, the full timeline can be found on the CTE New Career Technical Education Programs page. Other important information about these programs can be found on the CTE General Information page and the CTE Partnerships Information page of the DESE site, which are linked in the resource guide for this video module. The CTE and CTE Partnership application questions are organized around these 5 sections. Unlike Part A, Part B has questions related to all 5 of the sections. We will review each section, including each individual question, later in this module. The specific questions and other documents related to the Part B application can be found in the CTE application resource document, which is updated annually. You will be entering your responses in CHAMP as you did with your intent to apply and Part A steps. Remember that entries in CHAMP can only be saved when there is a response in every field, so we recommend following the guidance in the CTE application resource to develop all responses and prepare all file uploads, and then transfer these into CHAMP in one session when everything is ready for submission. This also makes it easier for you to work collaboratively as a program design team, and it allows the school to retain a complete copy of your Part B responses. Now we will look at the individual questions from Part B of the CTE and CTE Partnership application.
Question 1 is related to effective partnerships, and it builds on the Part A question regarding program advisory committees. As a reminder, all CTE and CTE partnership programs must have a program advisory committee known as a PAC. These advisory committees should include diverse representation in terms of demographics, such as race, language, ability, and gender, and role, such as parents or caretakers, students, and external partners, including employers, post-secondary education training representatives, or other community partners. For Part B, the PAC should be fully formed and ready to provide guidance in the development and continuous improvement of your program. For this reason, we need to know who is serving on your advisory committee and their role. If your PAC does not yet reflect the diversity of your school community, your response should include a recruitment plan. For help with developing your PAC, the CTE Advisory Committee Guide includes the details about recommended committee members. For your response to question 1, DESE requires the submission of a separate CTE Program Advisory Committee document. Review the appendices of the CTE application resource for instructions on what to include in this document. When you are ready to submit your PAC document, use the CHAMP email system to send your completed document to your CCTE liaison. In the open text field for question 1 in CHAMP, you can simply write PAC membership form sent in email. If you are unsure how to create your CTE PAC membership form, this sample form, which is also in the application resource document, can be used to draft your document.
To address questions about academic pathways, it's important to understand the specific requirements for CTE and CTE Partnerships Program coursework. Check the appropriate framework in the Career Connected Learning Hub for more information on the requirements for your pathway and to help build the curriculum for your program to ensure students develop the skills they need for their future. Questions 2 and 3 address the specific courses that students will be taking and whether the courses are new or existing. Do you have existing courses that you plan to build into the program? What new courses, if any, will you be designing to be used in the program? CTE and CTE Partnership Program instruction includes several elements, including technical course time, technical theory course time. For some programs, there may be academic-related course times. And for some programs, instruction will also include work-based learning experiences. For example, health assisting includes practicum experiences for all students. Applicants need to submit a scope and sequence overview for the pathway and a syllabus for each course. If the course is new, please include the names and affiliations of who was involved in its development. The next question, question 4, asks about the process for developing the previously mentioned scope and sequence and the alignment of the curriculum to DESE's definition of high-quality instructional materials. More information about high-quality instructional materials can be found on DESE's Curriculum Matters page. Consult with your district or school curriculum leaders when responding to this question. Question 5 applies only to certain program areas. See the application resource document appendices to find the list of programs that require state and federal board, agency, or accreditation association approval. If one is applicable to your program, you will need to utilize the CHAMP email system to send your CCTE liaison the requested evidence that your program has met the relevant state or federal licensing requirements.
For question 6, you need to develop and upload a comprehensive safety and health plan. On each CTE framework page, there is a program safety and health plan template. For example, if you go to the Hospitality and Tourism cluster and select Culinary Arts, you would scroll down to the bottom of the page under the title Program Administration Resources and select Safety and Health Plan. The document will automatically download. Please adapt the generic plan for your school's context. For example, if your program has a walk-in freezer, you will want to add specific instructions for students using the walk-in freezer. The plan should include provisions for safety inspections and training, and storage and disposal of toxic and hazardous materials. The safety and health plan also includes checklists which the school will use ahead of the on-site safety, health, and accessibility visit, which will be reviewed in more detail later on in this module. Question 7 focuses on the licensing requirements for those teaching the courses within the program. You will need to include a list of teachers, including names, affiliations, qualifications, and licenses. For CTE partnerships, you should work with the partnering school to gather this information. More information about the licensing requirements for teachers in the CTE program can be found by using the licensure requirements tool on the DESE licensure page. How many teachers a school needs to have in place for a new program depends on several factors, including ensuring full coverage of classes so all students are appropriately supervised. This should be decided locally, and applicants are encouraged to discuss staffing with their CCTE liaison. If needed, the school team can visit the licensure website for information on hardship waivers and contact the licensure office with follow-up questions. Question 8 of the Guided Academic Pathways section asks about MassCore implementation, which is required for all CTE students. MassCore requirements align high school coursework with college and workforce expectations. DESE's MassCore page has more information about MassCore, including guidance for educators and an FAQ. If your school has already implemented MassCore, your response should focus on how your pathway program aligns with MassCore completion. If you have not yet implemented MassCore, you will need to provide an explanation for how MassCore will be implemented for all students at the school, not just those participating in the new pathway. This is one of the Part B questions which highlights the importance of the involvement of various roles, such as a district curriculum leader or a building administrator for teaching and learning in the new CTE program design.
With enhanced student supports, we are thinking about the ways that pathways can be designed to intentionally promote positive learning experiences and pathway completion for all students, especially those students who may currently be less well served in the school. These supports can be enacted through counseling, advising, and mentoring experiences that are built into the pathways. DESE's multi-tiered system of support blueprint can provide guidance on responding to these questions. The design team for the new program should proactively give attention to improving access, experiences, and outcomes for students, including first-gen students, multilingual learners, and students with disabilities. This includes incorporating culturally and linguistically sustaining practices in the academic, work-based learning, and advising settings in your programs. This is another question where it is important to involve various roles such as student services, special education, and English learner leaders in the development of the response. Question 9 focuses on how your pathways will use Universal Design for Learning, also known as UDL, to inform the design and instruction of coursework and improve student experiences and outcomes. UDL helps accommodate diverse learners by elevating their strengths and eliminating barriers to achievement. More information on UDL can be found on the CAST website in the resource guide for this module. For question 10, you should review your school's current approach to culturally and linguistically sustaining instruction and DESE's page on supporting culturally and linguistically sustaining practices. This page includes professional development and school profiles that can help you develop or strengthen the culturally and linguistically sustaining practices in your program. Sometimes universally implemented support systems will not be enough to meet the needs of all students. In question 11, You need to explain how student progress and success will be monitored and by whom, and what strategies will be used when needs for additional support or interventions are identified to maximize the likelihood that all students will successfully complete the pathway.
Now, let's hear from CTE instructional coach Jamie Freeman about the variety of strategies for progress monitoring implemented at Madison Park Technical Vocational High School.
Our vocational directors and climate and culture team track things like stable enrollment, chronic absenteeism rates, student belonging surveys, discipline disparities, family engagements, course pass fail rates, credit accumulations with the ICRs. I mean, we can go on and on and on. We have a lot of people doing a lot of things to help a lot of students at the school.
As Jamie suggests, each school needs to design progress monitoring systems and interventions for their own student population, and specifically to support the student groups whose data shows that they are currently underserved in the school.
Question 12 and 13 focus on the support needs of two specific student groups: English learners, including how WIDA strategies will be implemented in pathway courses, and students receiving IEP services, including how accommodations and modifications will be provided in the pathway. You may want to review your school's current policies and practices related to meeting these students' needs, as well as the linked WIDA and DESE resources about educating English learners and students with disabilities. These resources will help your team assess your school's readiness to effectively provide any needed support for all pathway students. The final question under Enhanced Student Supports is related to the implementation of My Career and Academic Plan, also known as MyCap, for all students in your school. CTE programs must include student-centered college and career planning via MyCap integration with their pathways. If you do not currently have MyCap implemented for all students in your school, you will need to provide a plan for implementation. If you do have MyCap fully implemented, you will need to discuss how pathway learning will be documented in your MyCap system. DESE's MyCap page is a great resource to support schools in crafting and implementing a MyCap scope and sequence. It includes links to an implementation guide, sample scope and sequences, and a link to the MIFA Pathway website. DESE also offers training workshops, technical assistance webinars, and office hours for extra support with MyCap. MyCap implementation can be supported and documented via the MIFA Pathway platform, an online platform to help students identify post-secondary options and meet their academic and career goals. MIFA Pathway is a free, web-based tool that can be implemented in conjunction with your MyCap scope and sequence to help integrate relevant, real-world learning experiences into students' post-secondary planning process. The work-based learning portion of the MIFA Pathway platform can be customized to include the following features: a list of activities students can choose from, a plan that describes what the students will do and their goals for work-based learning. The plan is also a place for student reflection and employer or mentor feedback. MIFA Pathway also provides schools with data to support continuous improvement of work-based learning programming. It will function as the primary source of work-based learning data collection for Perkins and Connecting Activities funding. DESE expects that districts with designated CTE, CTE Partnership, Innovation Career Pathway, and early college programs adopt MIFA pathway to support work-based learning by the end of the 2026-27 school year. While districts do not have to give up their existing platforms, CCTE grant funds cannot be used to fund alternative platforms other than MIFA pathway.
When you think about connections to career, your first thought might be about cooperative education, where a school places students in an authentic work-based experience during scheduled credit-bearing technical coursework time in their 11th or 12th grade. Although programs are not required to offer cooperative education, work-based learning is required, and cooperative education is considered a signature quality component of career technical education programs. Cooperative education is specifically addressed in question 21. However, work-based learning should not begin and end with co-op. Effective programs will provide gradually more immersive hands-on experiences over time, beginning with exploratory for schools that offer it, and including opportunities to earn relevant credentials and advanced credits. In this way, students can learn and practice workforce readiness skills across all years of the pathway. Question 15 focuses on industry recognized credentials known as IRCs. What IRCs will students have the opportunity to earn in this pathway? Make sure you check the appropriate framework in the Career Connected Learning Hub to identify appropriate and high-value IRCs. The IRCs identified in the framework are those that are reportable in SIMS. You can also check with your Mass Hire Board and local industry partners to see what IRCs are needed for employment in the pathway industry. Beyond IRCs, your pathway students should be able to obtain college credits, articulated credits, and/or advanced placement credits. In question 16, your response will list all of the different advanced academic credits that students will have an opportunity to earn, whether those are school-based or through a partnership. We also want you to think about potential challenges you may encounter in ensuring participation and success of historically underserved students related to obtaining credentials and expected outcomes in the program. In question 17, you will describe those challenges and how you plan to address them. Questions 18 through 21 focus on work-based learning, including but not limited to cooperative education. Question 18 asks, what work-based learning experiences students will have as part of the program? Your response should describe the plan for embedded work-based learning throughout the program, which should align with the guidance provided on the DESE Career Connected Learning Hub, both in the specific framework for your program and on the general work-based learning resource page. The work-based learning webpage includes types of work-based learning, where work-based learning happens, and how to design for equity in work-based learning. In question 19, let us know how employer partners are engaged in the designing and implementing process for your work-based learning experiences. Will they provide guidance on the design? Will they provide a guest speaker or site visit opportunity or host co-op students? Question 20 asks about the internal coordination of work-based learning experiences. Which staff members will be responsible for on and off-site work-based learning, including co-op? This should address who's supporting the work-based learning experiences for each student. If you are looking to hire for this position, you will need to provide a brief job description.
For question 21, explain your procedure for students to access cooperative education and the forms that will be utilized. You may also need to submit the Cooperative Education Statement of Assurances. To do so, find the appropriate appendix in the CTE application resource. Copy and paste it into a blank document, get your superintendent's signature, and email the complete document to your CCTE liaison via the CHAMP email system. Question 22 is applicable to programs that are offering opportunities to participate in off-site construction and maintenance projects. If this is applicable to your program, find the appropriate appendix in the CTE application resource, copy and paste it into a blank document, get your superintendent's signature, and email the complete document to your CCTE liaison via CHAMP. Question 23 asks you to focus on anticipated challenges around participation and success in work-based learning for historically underserved students and how you will address those challenges. Responses should represent the perspectives of all school departments, including special education, EL services, school counseling, and academic subjects. Make sure to consider student voice and community involvement when formulating your response. Focus on identifying and eliminating barriers, such as how you will prioritize outreach, scheduling, and access issues such as transportation for underserved student groups.
Question 24 asks about the spaces and facilities that the new program will use. Your response should include the location and description of all classroom and teaching spaces. It is important for programs to provide spaces suitable for both technical equipment and hands-on learning, as well as separate space for classroom-based learning. For CTE partnership programs, be clear if the facilities are the same or different from the program school's existing CTE program. If different facilities will be used, include the address. You also need to consider whether the spaces are ready for use, and especially, are the spaces safe and physically accessible for all students. When responding to question 25, make sure to review the applicable accessibility guidelines and also to walk the spaces to check for any accessibility challenges. If the spaces are not yet ready, your response should include the current status and timeline for spaces to be ready for use. Questions 26 and 27 focus on equipment and supplies. In question 26, include a list of equipment that will be used to teach the pathway. Make sure to utilize the industry standard equipment information in the relevant CTE framework on the CCL Hub. For question 27, to determine whether the equipment is ready, consider the OSHA standards for safety and health for this program. Do the program facilities and placement of equipment meet these standards? How have safety risks been engineered out? Also consider emergency procedures, including the presence and accessibility of equipment like extinguishers and e-stop buttons, and personal protective equipment access and use. Remember that as part of the designation process, CCTE will conduct a safety, health, and accessibility visit of your site when it is ready. If your equipment is not yet ready, your response should include the current status and timeline for equipment to be ready for use. When we think about the principle of equitable access, it's important to remember that pathway access is where our equity work begins. To achieve the goal of equitable and effective pathways, we need to consider not just equity of access, but also the provision of equitable experiences and outcomes. With regard to equitable access, consider prioritizing the accessibility of your outreach efforts for all students and families, and being inclusive of groups that have been historically underrepresented in higher education and in high demand industries. With regard to equitable experiences, consider perspectives on accessibility, inclusivity, and systems of support of your staff from academic and non-academic departments, special education, EL services, and guidance, as well as families and potential partners. Do you need to build staff capacity with universal design for learning or culturally and linguistically sustaining practices? With regard to equitable outcomes, identify meaningful measures for your program and determine how you will monitor progress and make improvements as needed to support success in the pathway, especially for students currently underserved in your setting. You should be able to articulate how you are identifying and eliminating any barriers to student access, participation, and successful completion of your pathways. For question 28, you may want to reference activities that are part of the district's or sending middle school's pathway exploration policy and other initiatives such as MyCap implementation and career awareness activities in middle school. Question 29 focuses on students who have made the transition from middle school to high school. What experiences will ninth graders have to explore all their options? Applicants are encouraged to read the CTE exploratory page found under additional resources on the CCL Hub. It describes delivery models to help with pathway awareness and exploration experiences. Exploration opportunities should help students understand the courses, skill development, and work-based learning provided in the pathway, as well as the benefits and outcomes of the program. As a reminder, any school that has 5 or more CTE programs is required to have an exploratory program.
Let's pause and listen to Amanda Crosby of Whittier Tech and her student Tyler speak about the value of a robust exploratory experience.
At Whittier, as a freshman, you explored all 21 programs. What made you pick health assisting?
I applied to Whittier knowing that I wanted to work in the healthcare field. But going through all the 21 programs really helped me with other work that I could use in my day-to-day life, as well as communicating with other students in programs that I don't necessarily have like knowledge in already. And I really enjoyed going through them, and they taught me new skills.
In question 30, we are looking for a recruitment, admission, and retention policy that is suited to your school and community context. Once you have a designated CTE program, you will need to submit your policy by November 1 of the coming school year. For those who currently have a policy, you do not have to provide the entire policy in this response. Just acknowledge that you do have an active policy and confirm that students for the new designation will be selected and enter into the program based on the current policy aligned to the current regulations. Your response to question 31 should demonstrate consideration for school and program admissions for students who may not have the traditional transition experience from 8th to 9th grade, such as students who move into the district after grade 9, or students who did not have interest until after grade 9. Note that CTE partnership programs are often designed to meet this category of student interest and need. For question 32, while we would love for every interested student to be enrolled in the pathway of their choice, we recognize that space and resources at each school may limit the available seats for each pathway program. Schools with already established CTE recruitment, admission, and retention policies should reference the policy. If you do not already have a process in place, please include what policies and procedures you plan to employ to manage excess demand?
While leadership and sustainability are not named directly in the 5 sections, they are important considerations for all new pathways. For question 33, remember that new program implementation involves multiple roles at the district and school level. Applicants must make clear who will be involved in the pathway beyond the design and application phase, and what role they will play. For example, who is responsible for managing each component of the program, such as work-based learning and financial oversight. For CTE partnership programs, these roles should be spelled out in the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, as explained in the relevant appendices in the CTE application resource document. In the MOU, CTE partnership applicants will outline the responsibilities of each partner related to program administration and instruction, such as transportation, counseling and guidance services, discipline policies, schedules, support for special education and English learners, staffing, admission and enrollment procedures, data collection, and reporting requirements, as well as financial obligations, such as the cost of the program and how those costs are to be funded. Specific to the CTE partnership programs, the Memorandum of Understanding is a legal agreement between 2 schools that details the responsibilities of each of the schools in the partnership. For example, if a student has a disciplinary issue during the CTE program time, how will that be addressed and communicated between the 2 schools? The considerations listed in the appendices are just some examples. The applicant district must set up meetings with the program school to develop this legal agreement. Comprehensive school districts who have 5 or more CTE programs or will have 5 or more CTE programs after implementing the CTE programs they are currently applying for must have a CTE director. For question 34, if you have or will have 5 or more CTE programs, provide the CTE director's licensure information. For question 35, you will need to determine the cost associated with running your pathway program and consider what funding sources will support implementation, including local education authority, also known as LEA funds. Your school or district business manager should be involved in addressing this question. Your response should include the anticipated year-over-year actual costs to run the program, how these costs will be incorporated into the local budget, and what role grants will play in program startup and longer-term sustainability. Applicants for the CTE partnership programs must develop a budget plan as part of the MOU with the partnering school. The MOU should cover, for example, who is responsible for the transportation of students, program equipment, and consumable supplies.
This slide begins explaining the Safety, Health, and Accessibility Review, or SHAR, to be conducted on site in the spring after the Part B submission. More information on how to prepare the SHAR is available in the application resource document. CCTE will work with districts to schedule an on-site date, which occurs between mid-March and early June. This important component of the application process includes steps districts can take to make the on-site successful and meaningful. Program safety covers safe design, such as ventilation systems and emergency stop buttons, to equipment-specific safety features, such as guards on machinery. It also includes personal protective equipment, such as goggles. A safety and health plan identifies how students will be trained for the safe use of equipment, as well as how teachers will be trained and remain current on safety in their specific program area. These are just examples. Preparation for the safety and health visit should include use of the recommended daily, weekly, monthly, and annual review checklists from your program's safety and health plan, as well as identifying and addressing any local or municipal requirements related to health, safety, and accessibility for self-assessment purposes. Self-assessment results do not need to be submitted to DESE. Along with the safety and health review, it is important to ensure that programs are physically accessible to all current and potential students. Districts prepare by completing the CCTE provided accessibility form. This form will be available for you to complete in CHAMP and should be completed at least a week in advance of the on-site visit. As you conduct your own walkthrough, walk in the shoes of a student. Start from the parking lot. Pay attention to the ease or challenges of physical navigation to the CTE instructional spaces. Consider how a student using a wheelchair, for example, will navigate around the equipment or reach the supplies necessary for the projects. The Program Advisory Committee is foundational to a program's continued growth. Unique to Massachusetts CTE programs, PACs provide diverse outside perspectives for programs that deliver quality, rigorous instruction and content for all students. Your CCTE liaison will meet with the PAC for their direct thoughts on the program's readiness. These meetings are usually virtual to make it easier for PAC members to attend. Districts can help their PAC prepare for this meeting by engaging the PAC in planned meetings to discuss the role of the PAC and the program. The PAC should be knowledgeable about their role. They should be prepared to share their thoughts on the program facilities and equipment. They should be familiar with the scope and sequence and curriculum. They should know about the planned work-based learning and other aspects of the program. Program designation and program funding are separate processes. Grant options and funding options come from various sources. Chapter 70 funding is offset by 1 year. This means if the district is designated and reports 20 students in October of 2025 in your new program, the district will not see the additional Chapter 70 funds until the next school year. The Office of College, Career, and Technical Education posts grant opportunities in their monthly CCTE newsletter. Share any questions with your CCTE liaison.
There are several proactive steps you can take to submit a strong Part B application. Make sure to engage an inclusive, collaborative team in the planning and development work. Involve industry experts, the PAC, and your school and district team members in your pathway design and the development of your application responses. Read and utilize the CTE application resource document. Visit the CCL Hub website and review the relevant CTE instructional frameworks, paying attention to the program-specific facility and equipment needs for your program area. Know the requirements for program teachers and plan accordingly to secure a teacher who is licensed or can become licensed. Participate in upcoming webinars and drop-in office hours, and review other relevant resources linked in the resource guide for this video module. In addition to a strong internal team, schools should take advantage of external supports and partners to build effective pathways. As Part B applicants, you are hopefully already well connected with your DESE CCTE liaison and your local MassHire Workforce Development Board representative. DESE CCTE liaisons are assigned regionally and provide ongoing support in the application process, as well as after designation. Applicant school teams typically meet monthly with their liaison. Your representative at your local MassHire Workforce Development Board can assist with finding industry partners and support career exploration activities. Additionally, contacts such as those made through workshops, professional learning communities, and the Peer Ambassador Profiles page can be a great resource. Finally, higher education institutions can be helpful with program course offerings, and industry sector training partners can be helpful for selecting industry-recognized credentials and staying up to date with industry trends over time. Thank you for viewing this Part B application support module and its accompanying resource guide, and for your commitment to expanding access to high-quality, career-connected learning in Massachusetts.